Hi, I'm Stephanie and welcome to the Vintage Dish. Today I am going to be making a recipe from this vintage cookbook, Perfect Endings Chocolate Dessert and Beverage Cookbook by Nestles. And it was published in 1962. And I will show you more from this cookbook later. And the recipe we're going to be making today is dark secret pound cake. Come along with me as we make this recipe. Alright, so our ingredients for our dark secret pound cake is 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and I am using a gluten-free all-purpose flour. And I have 1 teaspoon each of baking soda and salt. We have 3 eggs, 1 cup of sugar, 2/3 cup of softened butter, and we also have 1 cup of semi-sweet morsels that I will be melting over a double boiler or in the microwave if I feel like doing that instead. I also have vanilla. We'll need 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and over here we have 2/3 cup of buttermilk. The only different thing that I'm going to do with this recipe than what they have in the original recipe is, instead of the 1/2 cup of chopped walnuts, I'm going to use the rest of the package of chocolate chips, just because I know my kids would rather have chocolate chips than nuts in their chocolate pound cake. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to whisk in my baking soda and my salt in with my flour to get that nice and combined. All right, so next I am going to cream together my butter and my 1 cup of sugar. And we will get that cream together. Step is to blend in our melted chocolate. Scraped it. All right, next we need to add our 3 eggs. And we will be doing those 1 egg at a time. Them into this small bowl here. Hopefully I don't get any shells. So 1 egg in. Two eggs. Cleaned up here a little bit, and then I will start on the next step. All right, for our last steps, it says to stir in gradually the flour mixture alternately with the buttermilk and a teaspoon of vanilla. So I'm just gonna stick my vanilla in with the buttermilk now, and we don't really measure, we measure with our heart. All right, so I will gradually stir in the flour. Looks very rich and chocolatey. I'm sure it's going to be extremely chocolatey by adding the chocolate chips instead of the walnuts, but no such thing as too much chocolate. All right, so we've got that pretty well stirred in. I think we need a little bit of liquid to help it along here. Let's do 1/2 of the buttermilk. And I don't generally keep buttermilk at my house, so I did the 2/3 cup of regular milk And then I added a tablespoon of white vinegar and let that sit for probably close to 15 minutes. Alright, I'll stir in the rest of the flour. This does seem like it's going to be a pretty thick batter. And it might have been a little easier with the mixer, but it said stir, so we're gonna stir. Alright, finish stirring this in. I will finish stirring this in, and then I will bring you back to finish this off. All right, finally got all of my batter into my bread pan. It was a very, very thick batter. Definitely got my workout in trying to combine all of those ingredients there. Thank goodness for modern appliances with mixers and KitchenAid mixers. So now we need to bake this at 350 degrees for 1 hour to 1 hour and 10 minutes. So I will check it at 1 hour. If it looks like it's getting too dark, because sometimes gluten-free flour does tend to brown up quicker than regular flour. If it's getting too dark, I'll stick some foil on top and make sure that it cooks all the way through. So I will bring you back when we have our finished pound cake. All right, so while I'm waiting on my pound cake to bake, I thought I might show you some of the dishes that I was using to make this, since along with loving vintage recipes and vintage cookbooks, I also love vintage dishware, bakeware, and things like that. So to mix everything up, I used my Early American Pyrex set, and this is the set that I just recently completed with the big bowl here. I saw it at a garage sale, and I snatched that up, and I was able to complete my set. So I was really excited for that. And also just a couple of the little dishes I used these cute. They've got a brown with a light blue tint to them, and they are Federal glassware. If you can see that, I don't know if you can see that. There is a little F and a shield, and that would be the symbol for Federal glassware. This is something that I do have a full set of. I have these little bowls, and I have a couple of random bowls like this. I have a serving platter and cups and saucers and dinner plates and all of that to go with it. And this might be an unpopular opinion, but I like my Pyrex. I like my Pyrex bowls for stirring up things and for baking, but I tend to gravitate more towards Fire King and Federal than I do Pyrex. I don't know why it is. I just feel like it has more of a mid-century feel to it than the Pyrex does, and I seem to pick that up more often than I do Pyrex. So along with our dishes, why don't we take a look at the cookbook that I used today too. Again, this is Perfect Endings Chocolate Dessert and Beverage Cookbook by Nestle, and it was published in 1962. Let's see if I can show you that. When I saw this, I immediately, you can tell this is vintage, but you wouldn't know quite the age of it just by looking at it. But when you see something with a binding like that, you know it's going to be a good one, and it's going to have some age to it. So this one opens a little differently. Instead of opening side to side, it's top to bottom, which makes it a little bit more difficult when finding the recipes. But it does have a lot of cute illustrations, a lot of two-color illustrations. We've got like yellow and brown. Each one uses brown, obviously, for chocolate. Yellow and brown, orange and brown, pink and brown, and there are several color photographs in here also. Like this, look at that cake plate, and that just looks delicious. That frosting looks amazing. Here's another color illustration. The Tunnel of Love cake. Look at that cute cake stand with the cherubs on it. So we do have some full color illustrations, and what I love about the vintage cookbooks with the color illustrations, because I love the vintage dishware, is I like to just see all the different dishware and things like that. So yeah, so this was a really neat book. It's got cookie recipes and brownie recipes and all of that. A lot of them also use the butterscotch drops, which I can't use because they're not gluten-free, but I'm sure all of those recipes are delicious as well. So if you see this one out, definitely pick it up, because it does have a lot of really great looking things in here. All right, so I will bring you back once my cake is done cooking, and we will cut it open and give it a taste. My chocolate pound cake is now out of the oven. It did have to cook for about 1 hour and 20 minutes. I checked it at 1 hour, and I put some foil over the top because the top was getting kind of brown, but it was nowhere near done. So I put it in for another 15-20 minutes after that. I suppose you could probably put this into 2 different loaf pans, just make smaller cakes, but it's pretty tall. It looks pretty good. So I'm gonna let it cool here, and then we will cut into it and give it a try. Well, here is the finished pound cake, and we have all been digging into it, as you can see. Made a very high, very rich, very delicious cake, and I strongly suggest trying it. So if you like vintage recipes and vintage cookbooks and vintage dishes, please consider subscribing, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.